Hi everyone! Have you ever dreamed of living like a millionaire? Of course you have. We don't know any person who wouldn't like to spend the day lying in a chaise longue next to a pool, riding expensive cars and living in a luxury penthouse. Oh, it's all so nice. But what can you do if you already have all this? All these beauties and luxuries will probably bore you someday. Real millionaires of all over the world invent all kinds of stuff to diversify their routine. In today's video, we'll tell you about 10 millionaires that did something stupid and bizarre in order to make their lives funnier. So, here are the most eccentric magnates. Let's get it on. Tony Tutuni. Usually, really rich people prefer not to expose their lives. Wide audience doesn't know anything about them, they don't appear in gossip columns, and well, they're not so famous. But this guy is a horse of a different color. Tony was born in Iran, but his family fled away after the Islamic Revolution of 1979. For a long time he lived in Argentina, and then he moved to the US and started his own business. But nobody really knows what he does. Many people think that his huge income has something to do with crime, but that's not so important for our video, because we're talking about a whole different thing. This young man has a very frivolous lifestyle. Piles of money, tons of girlfriends, and expensive cars. What else do you need for happiness? He's a non-stop party maker. That's obvious from his many photos on social networks. In other words, his life is a constant feast. He literally throws his money around, makes expensive gifts to all his girlfriends, and moves in his own private helicopter. We think he could use some manners and try to behave more modestly, but this is how this spoiled millionaire embellishes his life. Yuri Milner. Do you believe in extraterrestrial life? We really don't, but this millionaire seems to lack a social life, because he intends to find some fellow forms of life on other planets. In 2015, Yuri Milner, who owns a fortune of $2.8 billion, announced he's ready to spend the astronomical sum of $100 million on the search for alien civilizations. His partner is the British physicist Stephen Hawking. They met back in 1987. The first phase of the project is intended for 10 years, and everyone can participate, be it an amateur astronomer or a professional scientist. They'll use radio telescopes to search for signals from alien civilizations in 3 areas: the nearest million stars, the Milky Way, and 100 random galaxies. By the way, it's not the only galactic project of Milner's. In the spring of 2016, he claimed he had the intention to invest $100 million more to build a tiny interstellar spacecraft to reach Alpha Centauri in 20 years. Astronomers think that there could be a planet similar to Earth revolving around one of the Alpha Centauri stars, and it can potentially have life. Richard Branson. And here we have something really interesting. Richard Branson, with a fortune of $5.4 billion, is famous for his outrageous behavior, and here's an example. In 2013, this businessman worked as a stewardess on an Air Asia flight. To make it even more real, Branson wore the company-issued bright red uniform with a skirt, shaved his legs, and put on red lipstick. The billionaire worked for 6 hours on a flight from Australia to Malaysia. He served drinks and food and made announcements about technical information about the flight. But do you think he did it by his own will? Turns out he lost a bet to businessman Tony Fernandez. So Richard and Mr. Fernandez had a bet on whose team would finish first in the 2010 Formula One Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi, and Branson's team lost. Oddly enough, this was not the first time the billionaire wore a dress. He showed up at a bridal shop opening wearing a wedding dress, probably just wanting to stand out. And there are a few other flamboyant gestures, like riding a tank through Times Square. The businessman was promoting a soda he wanted to release on the US market, and unfortunately he didn't manage to launch the product, and he called that soda his favorite fail. Ingvar Kamprad. The founder of IKEA is famous for his extreme economy. The 90-year-old businessman likes to say it's stupid to throw money around at his age. and he proves the saying with his own example. He travels by planes only in tourist class. Back on land, he often uses public transportation and doesn't forget to use his pension certificate. In 2008, Kamprad complained that a €22 bill in the Netherlands had broken his barbering budget. Also, he says he likes to get haircuts when he's in a developing country like Vietnam. In the spring of 2016, in a documentary for Swedish television, Kamprad confessed he buys his clothes in second-hand shops or flea markets. Furthermore, he claims he's not wearing anything that wasn't bought at a flea market. According to him, this way he shows a very good example, but we really doubt it. And what do you think? Clive Palmer. You must know that dinosaurs disappeared a really long time ago. Nevertheless, Clive Palmer, an Australian carbon magnate, wants to create a Jurassic Park near Brisbane with living dinosaurs and other faunal and floral forms of that period. To realize his crazy idea, he plans on using all the achievements of gene engineering and cloning. Palmer shared this idea with scientists, but they're not that optimistic. There's practically no dinosaur DNA, and the chance of finding proper material for cloning is incredibly tiny. Although Clive understands it himself, he still doesn't leave this idea and hopes for the best. And while he waits for the magic to happen, he's focused on creating a more realistic project and build a Jurassic Park with mechanical dinosaurs and other animals of that period. The millionaire also has another weird hobby, the reconstruction of the famous Titanic. Palmer invests incredible sums of money into this project, and he plans on launching an exact copy of the legendary liner by 2018. Nicholas Berggruen. Until just recently, Nicholas Berggruen, with an estimated fortune of $2 billion, lived like others of his kind, buying expensive cars, luxury realty, and goods and pieces of art. But at the age of 45, he changed his view of life drastically. He claimed that the material world stopped being interesting for him, and he wanted to develop spiritually, explore the world, see other cultures, nations, and people. He sold all his property and other expensive items and started traveling around the world. He lives in small hotels, eats in normal cafes, and simply enjoys his life. Officially, Nicholas is a hobo, since he doesn't have a constant place of residence. He works remotely and never shows up in the office. He openly claims he's a freedom-loving person, and an excessive amount of things around him only tie him to one place, without letting him develop spiritually and live life like he really wants to. Paul Allen. This billionaire is one of the co-founders of Microsoft. As reported by Forbes, he had a $15 billion capital in 2012. Allen has been always passionate about computers, science, space exploration, and galaxy investigation. When he got rich, he didn't forget about his childhood fantasies and started contributing to the search for alien civilizations. He invested over $30 million to create a huge system of super-powered telescopes to look for extraterrestrial intelligent life. Allen is absolutely sure that by 2025, humankind will have irrefutable proof that there was and maybe still is life on Mars and other planets. Well, we only have to wait until another little green men enthusiast leads science to some amazing discovery. Leona Helmsley. Queen of Mean. This is how people called this rich woman. Unlike other greedy billionaires, she was happy to spend money on herself, but she bluntly refused to share it with her family. The only creature for which she was ready to do anything was her Maltese dog. After Leona died, the dog inherited $12 million, while 2 of her grandchildren were left with $5 million, and 2 others with nothing at all. Of course, later the family managed to win $10 million from the dog in a court, claiming that the granny was just out of her mind when she made her bizarre will. We don't know for sure how it really was, but just think of it, $12 million for a teeny tiny dumb dog. Salvatore Cerretto. For 4 long years, owners of restaurants, cafes, shops, and barbershops were suffering from an elusive avenger. Under the cover of the night, he left his feces on their thresholds. Yes, we know, shit happens, but we're really surprised by the reaction of the victims. It kept happening in the same region for 4 freaking years, and they stayed calm. But one fine day, one of the business owners finally came up with the idea of getting a surveillance camera. And who do you think was caught? Turned out the night hooligan was local 71-year-old millionaire Salvatore Sam Soretto, who was caught while he was easing himself on the threshold of a cafe. His explication was really astonishing. He said he was taking it out on his rivals, using these little gifts to scare away potential clients.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
What a shithead. Dan Bilzerian. We'll finish our Mad Men list with this rich hooligan. The things he does are not even comparable to the ones of all the other millionaires put together. For example, once he managed to lose $5.6 million in only 2 months just by playing poker. This is probably not the worst thing that could happen to him, because he took it really easy and relaxed. Also in 2014, Bilzerian was arrested in Los Angeles airport when he tried to smuggle in components and equipment to make a bomb. We believe every other normal person wouldn't dare to do that. To be honest, this eccentric young man spent quite some time behind bars, but we think nothing will ever stop him, and he'll keep getting weird ideas and going crazy. Guys, if you know some other weird rich people, tell us in the comments. And if you'd like to become a millionaire too, give us a thumbs up.
Guys, check out our new channel Jelly Gummy Bear. Our Jelly Berry will entertain our young viewers with interesting experiments, exciting adventures, and funny stories.
Ouch.
Subscribe, it's going to be an interesting ride.
Thanks for watching. Please like and share the video in social networks, and we'll be right back to you as fast as we can.